Well, this is it, folks. One more episode of Paradise to go. And with Decision Day and Fantasy Suites up ahead, the big questions become, who's leaving Paradise a couple, who's leaving Paradise brokenhearted, and why is Kendall back? Really? So let's not waste any more time and take a look at this final preview for Bachelor in Paradise Season 7. And even though we're right at the end, please still keep the comment section free of any blatant spoilers unless there's sleuthing involved, and I'll leave a link to the full, uninterrupted preview in the description.
Nothing makes any sense right now.
It's the most dramatic finale in Bachelor in Paradise history!
Take your relationship to the next level, or are you not?
Well, next week is looking to start right where we left off, with Abigail and Noah's end of prom breakup. And like Joe says, the couples are about to be deciding if they want to take the relationship to the next level or not, as Decision Day is coming up, where you decide if you're a couple that wants to commit or quit. And if past seasons are any indication, on Decision Day, couples get picked off faster than a game of red light green light in the Squid Game. So Abigail and Noah's departure is just going to be the first of many next week. Plus, we still have another rose ceremony where the men have the power. Next week's episode is 3 hours long, a lot still has to happen. So let's continue on and get to some of that Decision Day footage.
Paradise is coming to a close.
3 hours of drama!
I'm having this internal battle. I feel like you're too good to be true.
I don't want you to leave here with a what if.
Alright, so here we have two couples highlighted during Decision Day, Ed and Mckenna, and then Thomas and Becca. Now, if Ed and Mckenna are together on Decision Day, that must mean that Natasha is eliminated at the next and final rose ceremony where the men will be handing out the roses. After that, no one new will be entering Paradise, only couples will remain, and the couples that do remain then decide if they want to commit to each other, get a fantasy suite date, and talk about an engagement, or if they want to leave Paradise at that time, either together or separately. As we saw in last week's preview, the cast is also going to be visited by Dean and Caelynn to talk about the importance of this day. And funny thing is, although Dean and Caelynn are a Paradise success story, these two decided to leave Paradise even before they got to Decision Day. Now, normally I'd say just because we see Ed here and Mckenna in a different shot, it doesn't mean Ed gives his rose to her and not Natasha. However, I fully expect that to still be the case, as Ed and Mckenna have been attached at the hip ever since their date. And there was even some footage from this last episode with Natasha that actually takes place at the upcoming rose ceremony. Check out this shot from last week's preview where it looks like all the women are walking into the rose ceremony, and take note of what Natasha is wearing. Now let's watch this clip from last Tuesday's episode.
Because all that happens in my brain is just a rewind.
Natasha here is talking about her time with Ed just being a sort of rewind of what happened before with Brendan. Maybe not with the same level of disrespect, but a rewind in the sense that she got excited by someone only to have someone new come in and sweep them away. And ultimately, she's saying this sometime around the upcoming rose ceremony. So I fully expect Natasha's time in Paradise is ending there. As for Ed and Mckenna, these shots definitely give me the vibe of these two leaving Paradise not as a couple. Their relationship is too fresh to be considering a commitment and a fantasy suite date at this time. Plus, this is something we see every Paradise with a lot of couples. Essentially, with this show it feels like if anyone's paired up late or has gotten little to no screen time together, it's not so much a question of if they're going to leave Paradise, it's a question of how they're going to leave Paradise. Will it be as a couple that wants to explore dating outside of the show, or in separate cars and single all over again? Now, Thomas and Becca, on the other hand, that's a different story. These two have actually had screen time together and have been featured early enough to be a couple that actually considers accepting a fantasy suite date. But Paradise has a different storyline for these two. Again, one we seem to see every year, and that's the serious couple that breaks up on Decision Day. This time, it appears as though Becca is going to be initiating all of that. Here, she says she's having an internal struggle, and that Thomas is too good to be true. With that, we also have all these shots of Thomas crying, not to mention a section from a past preview where Thomas says he's falling in love with Becca.
Everything inside of me screams that I'm falling in love with you.
So it looks as though it's a Becca-initiated breakup. And for me, the most damning piece of evidence is the fact that these two are hugging in this shot from last week's preview at the entrance to Paradise, most likely as they are both heading into a car to leave the beach. However, at some point, it seems as though these two get back together, as savvy sleuthers online were able to connect these two outside of the show, as we've talked about in past preview breakdowns. It'll be interesting to see what their status is now, alongside other couples like Abigail and Noah, and the ones that split in the next episode. But for now, let's continue on.
Romance
Love you.
I love you too.
and tears.
It's definitely scary. We're literally dropping like flies.
Alright, and we've got yet another split to talk about with Anna and James. Pretty much the exact same scenario as we talked about earlier with Ed and Mckenna. And this shot of James walking off sure looks like the kind of shot we get when someone ends things and then walks off to get their bags and leave paradise. Oh, and apart from more Serena and Joe and Mari and Kenny romance footage, we get more of Thomas crying at what looks like the paradise entrance once more.
Who will get engaged?
Thomas! Oh my god.
I did not see that coming.
Who will go home broken hearted?
I've been thinking over and over, this is something like we want to continue.
Alright, so like I said last week with this exact same footage, this right here is definitely a fake out with Riley and Marissa. We have footage of Riley holding an engagement ring from a past preview, and I don't think I've ever seen a ring on the show that wasn't used. And by that, I mean I don't think there's ever been someone who brought a ring to a last rose ceremony and decided to break up instead. But apart from this fake out, we see yet again the footage of the women entering the next rose ceremony where the men have the power, a shot of Becca and Thomas kissing, which is most likely from the beginning of Decision Day before they look to be breaking up, and lastly, a shot of the men and the women on what I call the breakup perch. It seems like every paradise at this point on Decision Day, couples head down to a cabana or something to talk about the status of their relationship, while everyone else sits up on these perches and watches as, one by one, couples break up and leave paradise. Funny how in both of these shots, it's only the three couples remaining. Kenny, Joe, and Riley here, and then Mari, Serena, and Marissa right here. Now according to the preview, they're watching Thomas and Becca's potential breakup. But the fact that no other person is there with them makes me think that these three couples are the only ones that will be deciding to fully commit on Decision Day and head to a fantasy suite date. So sorry for all you Aaron and Tia fans out there, but they look to be breaking up. Shocker, I know. And yes, Aaron will be giving his rose to Tia and not Chelsea at the upcoming rose ceremony, as we saw in this shot from last week's preview, where Tia and Aaron are sitting together the morning of Decision Day. But let's now finish off this preview and talk about Kendall.
And just when you think you've seen it all,
Oh my god.
Is that Kendall?
think again.
She's absolutely trying to stop this right now.
Don't miss the shocking and emotional season finale next Tuesday night.
And Kendall is back. Now, before we get into the what does this mean conversation, I just want to say, this is all around a bad idea, no matter what way you look at it. I don't care if Kendall comes in to say she's paid for Joe and Serena's honeymoon and wishes them well. At worst, she's coming in for one last Hail Mary attempt at being with Joe, which I personally don't think is the case, but at best, this dude has a ring in his pocket and is likely about to propose. There's no good look in being his ex and showing up for that moment. But of course, we don't know the exact context of this. What we do know is that this is all, for sure, happening on Decision Day, and is not some fancy editing spliced together to make it look like Kendall is interrupting Joe's proposal. We know this for sure because we can see Kenny and Mari looking onto this little speck right here, which is Kendall. And at this point, Kenny and Mari have already had their last rose ceremony. You can literally see Mari wearing her engagement ring right there. Kenny is wearing the rose that Mari gives to him at the end, you know, that last will you accept this rose thing that they always do. And of course, the two of them are wearing both the same outfits from this proposal shot. Pretty blatant. So looks like Kenny and Mari go out and get engaged before it's Joe and Serena's turn. Now as for Kendall, I just gotta say, stop. Just stop, turn around. I don't care what your intentions are, stop. The airport is the other way. Now, my thinking is that here, Kendall's coming out to give her blessing to Joe and Serena's engagement. I cannot fathom the audacity of her doing something like trying to win Joe back while he's holding a ring for someone else. But even if she's just out here to provide the ultimate closure for Joe, can't you do that in an email? A phone call in like 2 weeks or something? Don't do it there on the beach. I would be so livid if I was standing there about to propose and my ex came down to give her blessing as if 1, it's her place to do so, and 2, as if it's not making a moment that's supposed to be about Joe and Serena a little bit about Kendall. And who knows how Serena's gonna feel. Even if Kendall has the best of intentions, this is not necessary. Of course, I'm sure production has their hands in this too, probably encouraging it, but still, stop. Just stop. This is a moment for Serena and Joe. If you want to give them closure, do it any other time than this. But alright, before we finish off, let's do one final roundup of the events we're expecting to see next episode and the ultimate outcomes of each couple. After prom, we know there's a rose ceremony where it looks like Aaron will be giving his rose to Tia, sending Chelsea home, and Ed to Mckenna, sending Natasha home. We then have decision day where pretty much everyone breaks up except for Joe and Serena, Marissa and Riley, and Kenny and Mari. We know with 100% certainty that Kenny proposes and Mari accepts, but unless Riley and Joe walk down with a ring in their pocket and decide not to use it, I'd expect all 3 of the couples to leave Paradise engaged. But as for what's happened since, like you, I'll be waiting to sip the tea and find out if everyone's still together, what's the status on couples like Thomas and Becca or Abigail and Noah, but with that, Paradise Season 7 sleuthing has come to a close. So thanks for watching this last preview breakdown for the Bachelor in Paradise finale. I hope you've enjoyed following along with me this season, and don't forget, next week's finale is 3 hours long, and of course, I'll be covering all of that. After that, we have a 2-week break before Michelle's season starts, and then it's back into more sleuthing and recaps. So until then, Bachelor Fantake, out.
Don't miss the shocking and emotional season finale next Tuesday night.